Hello, it's Ryan Mulkowski, and I just want to share with you some encouragement when it comes to setting boundaries in the work that you do. Now, a lot of us don't like to hear that word boundaries, especially when it comes to providing care and support to our patients and families. And the reason why is because we want to do everything we can to provide that love and care that patients and families so desperately need as they're making that journey toward the end of life. And a lot of times, what happens is when we get caught up in the patients and families' lives and we really start to form these deep, meaningful relationships and friendships, sometimes we blur the lines and sometimes we get too caught up in other people's mess and confusion, and we get caught up too much in other people's pain and suffering. And this is a tricky task because we are supposed to be compassionate. We are supposed to be empathetic. We're supposed to be caring, and we all are. But how do we set boundaries? How do we make sure that we protect our own heart? How do we make sure that we protect our own mind and our bodies? How do we make sure that we protect everything around us, so that way we can still have healthy families. That way we can still have healthy bodies, healthy minds, and healthy hearts. And I just want to share with you just a few words of encouragement about that. The first thing that we need to do is we need to distinguish the difference between providing care and getting caught up in care. Now you're saying, well, what does that mean? Well, what I mean by that is you all are tasked with a responsibility, which is to provide care in the way that you are trained to provide care. So, for example, if you're a nurse, you provide physical care to the patient. If you're a social worker, you provide emotional support, you provide resources, and many other things. If you're a chaplain, you provide spiritual care and support and emotional support. And then this goes along for a whole host of other people, PCCs and team managers. You guys provide the support that your team needs in order to do their job. Volunteers, coordinators provide an important resource, which is volunteers that can go and spend time with patients and time with families so that they don't have to feel alone when they're going through such a difficult time. We all have a place. And with that comes boundaries. And the important thing is we need to know our limitations. There's a difference between providing care and getting caught up in care. If we get to the point where we feel like we need to be receiving care, or we feel like we're getting more out of being with the patient and family than we're providing, then that's a boundary that is being crossed. And while you feel like it might be okay to form friendships and to form these really close bonds with these patients and families, you have to understand that you have limitations. There's only so much you can do. And whenever you reach your limitation, if you have let the patient and family believe that you can provide more than what you can, then they'll be disappointed and they'll be hurt. And that's the last thing we want to do. It's the last thing any of us want to do, is hurt our patients and our families. So we need to make sure that we provide good, adequate care, compassionate care, loving care, empathetic care, but not hurting ourselves in the process. Setting boundaries is one of the hardest things we can do. It's one of the hardest things we do in any facet of our lives, whether it be our work, whether it be our families, whether it be with our friends, whether it's with our faith communities, whether it's with our neighbors, whether it's just people we know in the community, people from our past, people in our present, people will know in the future. Whoever we come into contact with, it's important that we set good, healthy boundaries with those people, because we can't do it all, and that's okay. I think a lot of times we feel guilty when we feel like we have limits. We feel horrible. We feel despondent when we feel like we can't give somebody our all. But that's not true. We all have limitations, we all have strengths, and we all have weaknesses. And that's why hospice is about the team, right? We can't rely on the nurse to do everything. We can't rely on the social worker or the chaplain to do everything, the volunteer coordinator to do everything, the PCC or the team manager to do everything, the marketer to do everything. We all have a place in Agape. Uh, we all have a role and a task, whether it's the CNA providing that hands-on care, whether it's the nurse making sure that patients get the right medication regimen and get the right supportive care physically, whether it's the social worker providing emotional support, the chaplain providing spiritual support, the volunteer providing a much needed resource um, in socialization for patients and families so that way they can feel loved and not alone. Whatever the role is, we all have it. But with that comes limitations. And so I just want to encourage you to evaluate, what are your limitations? What are things that you just cannot do well? And there's one or two things you can do in response to that. You can either say, how can I improve to be better in that thing? Or if I can't improve in that thing, who can I rely on? Who can I turn to say, you know what, I need help. Can you help me? I can't do this. Can you help me? There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging your limitations. All we are tasked to do is to do the best we can with the knowledge that we have. And so I want to encourage you, continue to strive to do the best you can with the knowledge that you have. Always keep on learning, keep on growing as a person, both professionally and personally, and most of all, be gentle with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself when you feel like you might have failed or you might have reached your limits. Reach out to somebody. The chaplain team is here always to support you, and if you ever need extra support or extra care or just a little bit of love, reach out to us and let us know, and we'd be glad to support you because we love our Agape family. Thank you so much.